Grab your bag, your kit, and get fit. We're all going for a ride now.
Hi guys, this is Random Chat, and it's been some time since I made a video, but I decided it's time to put one on, and I'm going to talk to you about the state of this country. And one of the things I'm going to talk about is going to be a bit on the controversial side, in the sense that it is a no-no to talk about, and that is an organisation that we used to have here in Britain called the National Front. For those who don't know anything about the National Front, it is an organisation that was classified as far-right, racist, and even borderline neo-Nazi. They were originally formed in 1967, and if you grew up in the 70s as a teenager, or the 80s like myself, you would have known about the National Front, you would have heard of them, and may even known people who were in the party itself. Myself, I knew quite a few people who were pro-National Front, and even a few that were even borderline classified as members. Now, the National Front was seen as a bit of a crackpot organisation, talking out their backsides, not knowing what they were saying, full of hatred, full of racism. They also had double standards. Though they were pro-British, pro-English, they were proud of their flag, the Union flag. Quite a few of them, especially in the 80s, would stand there going, Sieg Heil, Sieg Heil. Now this in its own right made them look ludicrous and hypocritical, because you cannot be pro-British, pro-English, be proud of your flag, the Union flag, and then suddenly start doing a Nazi salute. Simply because the Nazis in the 1940s totally wanted to re-change everything we were. So you cannot be pro-British and then stand there and go, Sieg Heil. That goes against everything you are as a British citizen, English citizen. That goes everything against you. That goes everything against the flag that we honour and we're proud of, the Union flag. And yes, in some aspect, they were a bunch of fascist, racist morons. I fully agree that. They targeted young people in the 70s and even in the 80s by saying the reason why you could not get a job or get on the housing list is because of the niggers and packies. And when you are young, you're looking for answers, you would end up believing what they said, because you're talking people who were in suits who looked quite well off. So clearly they knew what they were talking about. And half the time it was just about hatred towards somebody because you didn't like the colour of their skin or where they were born. So as you grow up and get into your late teens, you realise what a bunch of morons the National Front were, and that everything that they said you were totally against. Myself, as a skinhead who loves ska music, totally disagreed what the National Front stood for. But some of the things they spoke about were correct. The National Front spoke about how our country would be taken over and overrun. Our way of life would be destroyed. Who we are would be taken away from us. Our language would become one of many in this country. We would become second-class citizens in our own country. But at the time, in the 1980s, for myself, in which the minority were black people or Indian people, and that wherever you went, people spoke English, and there were more white faces than there were black. You looked at what the National Front was putting across and you thought they were just talking nonsense. That would never happen to this country. But take a look at Britain now. We are becoming the minority in our country. Our language is a second language basically in my workplace. The first language is Polish. Who we are is dying. Our values, everything is disappearing slowly. We're no longer allowed to celebrate St. George's Day because it's racist. Even the Union flag is coming across as partially racist nowadays. We're not allowed to speak out about what's going on within this country because we'll be classified as racist, so we are being kept quiet. Certain areas are totally dominated by Islam. You've only got to look at Birmingham, which is 40% to 45% Pakistani Muslims. Areas of London you could walk down the street and you wouldn't believe you were still in England. So everything the National Front has said has come true. And maybe we should have listened to them. I could understand now where they were coming from when they said about we will lose our way of life. It has been predicted that in around 40 to 50 years that British people will become the minority in this country. I think that's wrong. I think we are at that stage now. I would take my workplace for instance. The main language within my work is Polish. It's getting more and more Africans also now pouring into where I work, along with Indians. So basically, in my workplace, the second language is English. So what the National Front was pointing out about us losing our identity has started to happen. We live in constant threats of attack from foreigners coming to this country, legally and illegally. Taxpayers are keeping them. We work hard all week. We pay our taxes, only for those taxes to be partially given away to people who are not entitled to it, who are not even legally allowed to be in this country, but we allow them to stay here. I know you might say that these people are going through the processes to see if they're legally entitled to stay here, but we know the truth. Once they're here, they're going to be staying here, and they don't intend on being here for a good reason. They don't want to be diverse. They don't want to integrate with us. They don't want to pay their taxes and work hard. They just want the free handouts. The best example of the legal system of how we deal with immigration and dealing with illegal migrants is that there was a case in which it was on YouTube of how they allowed this person to stay in the country. The reason for him to be allowed to stay here simply because he said if he went back to his country, he would have his beard shaved off by coming here to the Western world. Under human rights law, because he would have his beard shaven off against his will, apparently they allowed him to stay in this country under that excuse of why he was here and why he wanted to stay here. So we know these people coming to this country are going to stay here. And as crimes rise within this country, especially sexual offences against children and women, carried out by these foreigners that's coming here, who have no respect for our laws or our women, when will immigration wake up and say, enough is enough? So maybe we should have listened to the National Front in the 70s and in the 80s. I still know one or two ex-members of the National Front, and they agree with me that the National Front went the wrong way by using violence and hatred towards people because of the colour of their skin. But he did agree with me that the fact that if they had changed things, maybe the National Front would be taken serious. And no, I'm not saying we need an organisation like the National Front. It needs the government and see what's happening to our country. You've only got to look at today's standards now, in which it has been said that RAF bases across this country, Britain, England, have been put on high alert in reprisals to what Donald Trump has done to Iran. So instead of thinking enough is enough, no more illegal immigrants come into this country who are Muslim, this country is allowing more and more to come in. More and more threats come to this country on a day-to-day basis. We know Islam is a threat to our society, our way of life, our country, because we are non-Muslim. So instead of getting control, what are we doing? We're allowing more and more Islamic people to come to this country to live and to take over without questioning what their reasons are. If you look at the boats that's coming into this country, they're all male mainly. They're all between the age of 18 and 30. If they are coming here with good intentions, where are the women, the children, their mothers, their fathers? But the reason why you don't see any children, women, elderly people on these boats is because this is an army coming to this country. It is an invasion. They're not coming here with good intentions. And this is exactly what the National Front pointed out. But by not listening to what the National Front had to say, we have now put ourselves in a vulnerable state. And what can we do about it? Nothing is the answer. And if we don't have a government that's going to support us, and we don't have a security system within this country that's going to support us, the threat is growing and growing daily. Why are we refused the rights to be proud to be British or English, depends on what you wish to classify yourself as? It's simply because we don't want to upset these invaders that's coming to this country, simply because we know what their actions will be if we upset them. And yes, I know what many of you are probably thinking by watching this video, a racist. And yes, I am a racist. The vast majority of us are racist. And it doesn't mean being white. Anything you disagree with, regards to what's going on within your country, is classified as being racist. Islamic people are the biggest racists there are, but they're not called that. They're called politically minded. But when a white person does the same thing, they are classified as racist. Am I a racist in the sense I dislike people because of the colour of their skin? No. I enjoy ska music, being a Trojan skinhead. I enjoy two-tone. And I believe in what the specials said in one of their songs, which was, "I'm proud of my black skin as you are proud of your white." And why shouldn't you be proud of the colour of your skin? Why should you not be proud of where you come from and your nationality? But more and more so now, these days, you're not allowed to be proud to be white. You're not allowed to proud to be called British or English. You're not allowed to be proud of your flag, whether it's a George Cross or the Union flag. And yes, it is the government is putting these rules and laws and regulations in place simply because they do not wish to upset these people coming to this country. Let's face it, when British people go out and protest, they're harassed by the police, then they end up getting bricks thrown at them. And that is about it. But when you upset Islam, what happens then? There is no police presence. The police run away in fear from them. And unlike British people who might get a bit pissed off with what's going on in the country and might throw a few bricks, the Muslim community end up walking around with machetes and other weapons, and they don't have any concerns about using them. And this is why I say the National Front were right in what they were saying. Our culture is dying. Our way of life is dying. Who we are is being denied. Our freedom of speech is being taken away from us. We have paedophile gangs who are Islamic Pakistani based right across the country of Britain. And what are the police doing? Nothing. They are protecting them. But if it's one white paedophile male, they are on him like a ton of bricks. It's okay to be a Pakistani Muslim and abuse little children. If you're a white paedophile, you're a pervert, you're sick, you need locking away for the rest of your life. Which is rightly so. I fully agree with that. We're too scared to do anything about these Pakistani perverts just in case the rest of them kick off. And are the police doing anything about this? No, simply because we don't want to upset the rest of them, do we? Our children are no longer safe on our streets because of these people. As many of us know, not too long ago, 3 young children, British children, died because of one of these second-generation migrants with political beliefs regards to Islam. And it was recently declared how he chucked boiling hot water over some of the prison guards. This person has no remorse for his crime, because in their eyes, these people do not see any abuse or any attacks on British citizens as an offence, because we are infidels, we are nothing. And I fully blame our government and our security for this. If they were putting their foot down and clamping down on what's going on in this country, maybe we could start to live in this country without the element of fear of being attacked when we walk down the street. There are areas within this country when you walk down the street, you wouldn't even believe you're in Britain anymore. This is not immigration. This is a takeover. This is domination. This is annihilation of the British way of life. But sadly, it's too late. I don't think there's any way we are going to regain our culture, our way of life. I think it's long gone, and I think it's unsavable. But this hasn't just affected white British people. And what I mean by this is that I spoke to a Jamaican guy a few months ago. His parents was part of the Windrush organisation in which Jamaicans, West Indians, came to this country to adopt a British way of life, to be diverse and become British citizens, pay their taxes, work hard. They came to this country to be part of us and our way of life. And there are less and less Jamaicans, West Indian people within this country. So when I spoke to this guy about it and asking him why was this so, his reply was that the majority of the people he knew went back to Jamaica. The reason being is this country is now dominated by Africans, and it no longer felt like their home. And sadly, going back to the National Front, they also made sure that these people didn't feel welcome, because in the 80s there was a lot of racism towards black people, because this was programmed into young people by the hierarchy within the National Front. So yes, we are partially responsible for not making these people feel at home, but it says something to you when people have to leave a country that they've come to, that they've respected, and that they loved and called their home. A flag that they honoured and was proud to say was their flag is no longer part of their life. And this is simply because of the way things are changing in this country. And it will get to the stage where even British people will start moving out of Britain, simply because they will feel it's no longer their home anymore. Myself, I feel also this is no longer my home, but I have to tolerate it and put up with it, because this is no longer my Britain, my England. This is no longer the country I knew as a child, as a teenager, in my 20s and in my 30s. And yes, it is frustrating to see. And yes, you do slowly become more and more racist because of the way things are. we should not be made to feel the way we do within our own country. And to make matters worse, one Labour politician pointed out a few months ago how we need to be diverse to those coming to the country. Why should we be diverse in our own country? It's them coming here should be diverse. It's them who come here who should be changing their way of life to become British. But they don't. They come here and they want you to change to their way of life, simply because they want to change this country to being theirs. You've only got to look at one point that Tommy Robinson pointed out, how as a child throughout the 80s, where he lived had one mosque. Now it has 45 mosques. Now, without being too rude, that is completely taking the piss out of this country. A Christian country now dominated by Islam. But unfortunately, that is our life, and that's how things are going to be. And it will only get worse. I've only got to take the town that I live in, a small market town. It's now got a Turkish barbers in it. There are more and more Africans within this small little town. There are more and more Muslims within this small market town. Within the past 2 years, the numbers are growing rapidly. Long gone is the British culture and our way of life. This country is now finished. British pride has been stamped on. And yes, it is frustration. And if you want to point the finger and call me a racist, feel free to do so. As I said, we are all racist in one way or another. I don't see why I should have to change my way of thinking just so people don't point the finger. If you don't like what I've got to say, then don't listen. We're allowed to have our freedom of thought. We've had our freedom of speech taken away, but they cannot take away our freedom of thought. That is all I've got to say on this matter. I'm Random Chat, and thank you for watching.